Today, we're going to be talking about something that we've all thought about ourselves. Are we a good hang? Right? Everyone asks themselves that question at some point. At least if you are a good hang, you probably have asked yourself that question. So we're going to talk about those that are a good hang, or maybe why they become good hangs, people that why someone might drain a room or not be a good hang. And what's the difference? What makes someone enjoyable to be with, and how presence matters more than personality. This is the All In podcast, and hopefully we can be a good hang for you today. All right, fellas, who's someone who you genuinely enjoy being around, and why?
1, 2, 3.
Will. Yeah.
You were late on that one.
Our good friend Will. Well, I was thinking I had my mind on Jimmy.
Jimmy from college.
What
Jimmy
a
from college.
throwback.
He was such a great
Oh, it
hang
was a great hang.
because he was always smiling,
Yeah.
always happy to see you.
Yeah.
Would
I think
remember things about you. You know,
the
he was
thing
so
about
great.
Jimmy is, I mean, when was the last time we talked to Jimmy?
It's been a
10
couple
years
years
ago?
for me. I mean, I've talked to him
9?
post college, but it's been a little bit.
I haven't talked to him since we took a bowling class our senior year. And we're in a little threesome.
Wherever you are, Jimmy, we're going to send this to you. You are a great hang. Here's the thing about Jimmy, and I think this is a principle for all great hangers, is they have not width, that makes them
Girth.
sound overweight.
Stockiness.
Range.
Range.
They have range. They can talk to different people about different things. Jimmy was kind of one of those people who was like a professional BSer. Like just could talk to anyone about
Right.
anything. I've been told in my life that you know a little about a lot of things. Those are people that you love being around because you could put them in a room with a bunch of strangers and they're going to be able to work the room and have a great conversation about engineering, sales, religion, football, and then circle back to cooking by the time the night's all said and done.
That's a great point.
Shout out, Jimmy.
Shout out to Jimmy. I'm going to send this to you.
What a legend.
What do you say about Will? Do you think it's similar qualities? The range? The being able to talk to anyone about anything?
I would say Will is just a very lighthearted and enjoyable person to being around.
He makes you feel really funny.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he makes you feel really funny, and then at the same time, you also kind of feel like he just kind of disarms you a little bit with his humor, I would say.
Yeah.
He's one of those people where you can just really quickly, you find yourself sharing things with him that maybe you wouldn't share with other people. Just, vulnerable things, I guess.
Yeah.
You can go deep with him, I think.
Sensitive things.
Yeah, relatively quickly, I would say.
My favorite thing is Will is one of my, I know I was late on saying his name. Will was the best man at my wedding. He's my best friend. But Will and I became really close. And then I think through that, naturally, you guys also started hanging out with him.
Yep.
But I do feel like pretty quickly, within like the first couple of times that you, specifically you, Clayton, hung out with Will, you were just sharing the deepest things that were going on in your life with your family, with like everything happening. But you're right, because he's very disarming in a great way.
Well, I would say also, Jose, we've been good friends for a long time, and for all of our listeners, I stood second at Jose's wedding,
The people's best
which I'm
man
very
is what
grateful
you
for. Yeah, the people's
branded
best man,
yourself.
the one that
best
people
man.
wanted that they didn't get.
Yeah,
So
kind of like LeBron.
yeah, exactly.
What
was I gonna say?
I did demote.
I lost my train of
because he
thought.
wasn't going to be able to make it.
I made it though.
You made it. You
That
did
was
make it.
incredible.
But anyway, sorry. Keep going.
I lost my train of thought.
You started
Will.
talking about LeBron.
Getting deeper.
Oh, well, I was going to say, Jose, you're a great connector of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great quality of yours. And you had become friends with Will before I had become friends with him. I just remember you telling me frequently, I think you guys are like two peas in a pod, like you'd become really great friends with him. And honestly, you've been that way, I think, with a lot of different people in your life. Of just, you have all these friendships and you like connecting your friends with
I
other
do love
friends
that.
that you have that aren't in the same groups.
Well, I think your best quality is you're not a sanguine, but you're like, people think you're a sanguine. So for those of you who may
You're
not
talking about
be
me or
familiar-
Clayton?
Clayton.
Okay, I couldn't
you're
I
tell.
thought we were still talking about good
Because
qualities
you're
about me.
pointing
Yeah.
at me and you're looking at him.
I wanted to include him.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Inclusion.
Yeah, I needed that.
But for those of you who are not familiar, temperaments are just kind of like it's a way to describe maybe like personality, things that you maybe naturally draw to.
Yeah.
So I think me and you would have sanguine as kind of one of our main personality types. Sanguine's like, you love people, you love being with people, you love connecting people. And you're not a sanguine in your strongest temperament.
Right.
But you certainly come off that way in terms of your friendliness. So I think that's why you connect with people. But then your melancholic comes in, your depth comes in, and then you're easy to connect with, but then you have depth. So it
that
brings
Joe
it
Michael
together.
and I lack.
Right.
Okay, now Jose, it's your turn to affirm John Michael now.
I feel left out.
We should just all affirm each other and all of our friends who are listening right now.
Love you.
Joe Michael, I do love you, and I do think you have a lot of great qualities, but that is not what this show is about.
There are too many to name right
There are
now.
too
So
You can't even begin to
There's
say.
too many. No, you know something that I do think actually makes someone a great hang, that I think you're probably the best out of all of us at, is remembering things about people's lives. I love asking people questions about their life.
Yep.
I'm self-proclaimed good hang. We'll see when the reviews come in, but I'm really bad at remembering things about people's lives. I love talking about it, and I'm upfront about it. I'll be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I have a really bad memory. Can you remind me? Was it your kids doing this, or what was it? I don't mind getting in front of it.
I mean, just at lunch, you looked at our friend Nick, and you're like, your son's like, what, 4 or 5? And he's like, he just turned 3.
Same thing. So we're talking about qualities that make someone a good hang. But what are things that people do that make them a harder hang, maybe, even if they don't mean to?
So we did an episode, I can't remember when it was, about conversation. And we talked about the question asking portion of good conversationalist. And I think that principle applies here. Like, there are people that you're hanging out with that just deflate the room because everything in the conversation, they always draw back to themselves. So they relate to your experience only in so much as they themselves can talk about something that happened to them. It's like you're talking about your family and they're like, oh yeah, my family, blah, 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 blah. Instead of following that up with, oh yeah, tell me more about that. I want to hear more about that. So I think that's one aspect where people deflate the room. The other thing is like inside jokes that no one really understands. They're making all these little bits that only one other person in the room understands, and the other 6 are just feel left out of the inside joke. That's a great way to kind of shut the vibe down.
You know what quality is one that I don't think anyone does it like maliciously. I think it's just like it comes from a place wanting to connect. But when you're in a group and then someone keeps pulling you out of the group, like we're all talking about
for a
someone
one-on-one combo.
Yeah, well, it's not like, hey, can I talk to you real quick? It's like we're all talking about something, and then they just lock in on you, like, hey, do you remember that time? That it's related, but it's like it's only kind of like an inside joke. It's just like an inside story that has nothing to do with everyone else. It just kind of fully pulls you out.
So right now I work in fundraising. That's my primary role that I have right now. You can call it a bunch of different names: fundraising, philanthropy, development. It's got a bunch of funny names. And I've read all these development books over the last year or so. And I've kind of transitioned now. I'm reading more sales books right now. Philanthropy and development is not the same thing as sales, but it has a lot of crossover. And a lot of what I'm reading right now, there's kind of a similar, pattern that follows in sales as it does in development and fundraising, which is that your first encounter with somebody new, either, a prospective or current benefactor, or, a prospective or current customer, is not to come in and just try to sell somebody on something, sell somebody on a solution. Your first step is always asking questions and doing what's called discovery, trying to understand, in development, who this person is, what they care about, why they care about it, what that looks like in their life. And for someone that's new in development or someone that's new in sales, the temptation is as soon as you hear something that you can, promote your solution for, you jump in and you do that. When in reality, you want to continue to ask questions and go further. It's kind of like what you were saying, John Michael. And so I've been reading these books. I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much here that has, it's really important in sales. It's really important in development, but honestly, it's just really important for human formation in general. Because a lot of what they're talking about is just building trust with another person? How do you build trust with another person and show that you actually, you're not just trying to get something from them, but you're trying to create value for them. And so I think we're really quick to listen to respond, like you were saying, listening so that I can now tell my story that connects with what you're saying, instead of listening to understand and kind of pressing in deeper and, uncovering layers that are there.
What role does humor play in either inflating the room, making it enjoyable to be around, or deflating it to where people feel uncomfortable?
That's a
I feel
great
like
question.
if we lean one way or the other in this group, it's probably to too much humor at times, at the cost of maybe delaying some serious moments.
Yeah. As you say that, I was kind of thinking too of like, did you guys ever have a moment where you're like, okay, maybe I'm the bad hang?
Yeah.
And maybe not that, but I know late high school, early college, I was very, I don't want to say self-conscious in the way that I was like insecure about it, but just very conscious about how am I speaking, how are the people receiving me, and like maybe overthinking it for sure. And I kind of had to like reinvent my social skills a little bit.
Was there what led to that insecurity or overthinking?
I have always been a very stubborn person. And I think, and it still comes out at times, there's like, I just need to be right. And I was for sure the type of guy, like late high school, early college, that if there was any sort of anything, I would go to any lengths to make sure that I was seen as I was right and you were wrong. Which no one cares about that when you're 18 years old, freshman in college, just trying to make friends, right? And I mean, I had a fine time making friends. I wasn't like struggling in that department, but at the same time, I don't know if there was one moment. I just remember multiple times I'm like, whatever I just said definitely changed the vibe of the room. Whatever I just said, people reacted differently to what Clayton said, or to what John Michael said, or to, like, I just started to notice there was a difference to people reacting to whatever I was saying versus what other people were saying. Yeah. And that's made me question a lot of like, okay, well, what am I saying? What am I sharing? Right. I also tend to use a lot of humor. Right. And there's been a lot of times where it's like, okay, like I've had to learn in which relationships can I use more humor versus less humor, But I'm wondering, is like, was that just me? Did y'all go through something similar? Were you guys just always good hangs,
I think everybody probably goes through a phase of being insecure about what other people think of them, whether that's, I don't know, you're in a new group for the first time, or even just with your current friends. I mean, that's just one, a temptation, an insecurity, or an attack from the evil spirit of just like, you're isolated, nobody likes what you're saying, you're not good socially, like all those things. I feel like all of us have experienced that at one point or another, of feeling of being isolated from the group because you feel like, you're doing something wrong, whether that's in a social situation or whatever situation that you might find yourself in. But I've found that the best conversationalists, the ones that I enjoy speaking to the most, they do the wave. They do the wave. And what I mean by that is when you're using too much humor, you tend to stay here. You tend to stay on the surface. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you can't really, you don't connect really deeply with someone at that level. But then you also have people that are really, really deep, which is good at times. But I've been in, multiple hour-long conversations where it's like deep the whole time, and afterwards you're like, you've got a headache, and you're just kind of tired. And a lot of it was good, but the most fun and engaging conversations that I'm a part of are the ones that go like this, where you can dip into conversation of depth and then come back out and make some jokes and be lighthearted and then dip back into the depth. So I would say doing the wave is probably a best practice, if you will. And
well, I think both of you guys identified the growth in understanding a room and understanding what's appropriate. I just think that's a sign of emotional maturity, emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, I don't know how you develop that. We've all worked with people in our jobs where it's just like, man, they just really lack emotional intelligence. And I've always struggled to work with those people and coach those people because I'm just like, I don't know how to teach you that besides just showcasing it for you and having you be around people who are emotionally intelligent.
Because who taught us
I don't know.
emotional intelligence? You know,
I think, I mean, what you identified as the beginning of college was a time of emotional maturity, because you're talking about understanding that the way you're being received is different than other people. That's emotional maturity. You had the wherewithal to be able to identify that as an aspect of your life, and then you made changes to adjust.
right?
It was your glow up. You had the greatest glow up of college.
I did.
Of us three, your glow up was insane.
Yeah, dude, it was rough at the
I gained
beginning,
a lot
but
of weight in college.
I was talking about, like, every year you became cooler.
that's true.
It's so true.
You took a 5th year, we graduated, and we were seeing pictures of you, and we're like, man, Jose is living the life.
The man.
Everyone should take a 5th year. It was the most fun. I never want to have again.
What happens when you're deep, though, or when you're honest, and then it's just met with crickets? Like, that is the worst feeling. When you share something and then everyone just kind of looks at you, and you're like, I was kidding about that, by the way.
When was the last time that happened to you? Because that happens to me sometimes when I'm around people that maybe aren't as deep into their faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, that's feels like a big blanket statement. It's not always true, but that it does tend to lean that way when people aren't as passionate about the faith. They just feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that happened to me a lot over break, being with my family or with old high school friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like some good training that we've had, just being a part of a Catholic missionary organization for a long time, leading a lot of Bible studies and small group discussions. There's 3 main roles that we've kind of learned how to play in leading a Bible study, which I think are also really applicable to being a part of a conversation as well. Which is, the first one is the traffic cop, which is there's someone that's talking too much in a conversation that kind of
dominating.
Yeah, just dominates the conversation or derails the conversation. And as someone, when you're leading a Bible study, you want to take charge and you want to make sure you're leading the Bible study. But as someone that's entering into a conversation, really, where there's not really one designated leader, you're just in a group conversation, you can still play that role and be able to kind of, pause that, thanks for saying that, and then connect to somebody else in the group. And just recognizing that might be, a pattern for particular people in the group. But that's what, you're not just being a great conversationalist because you have a lot of great things to say, but you're being a great conversationalist because you recognize the dynamic of the group, and you're willing to kind of step in and lead the group really, really subtly,
Yeah, I think the time to move on from humor to seriousness is when you can just tell, the laughter's dying down, room's getting a little quieter. You can just sense a feeling of guys are ready for that next conversation point. It's like when the responses get shorter, that's probably the time where you toss up a question of somewhat depth. All right, tell me about your experience here. And that promotes conversation that gets past the point of humor and allows for a on-ramp to a deeper conversation.
So a lot of what we said earlier, and we're kind of starting to come back to this quality, is listening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Asking questions, not to bring it back to yourself, not to respond. But what did you say? Don't ask questions to respond, but ask questions to understand. So, listening is something that genuinely makes someone a great hang. What are some other qualities that make people good hangs?
I think the ability to engage both genders effectively in a room is really, really hard to do.
I was a little surprised coming out of college and realizing that I just kind of thought, like, oh, we all grew up and we can all talk to both male and females.
Right. Like, some guys are great hangs with the dudes, but then you get a little uncomfortable when it's a multi-gender room and you're just like, I'm kind of scared about them talking to my wife. My wife always says that her rating on emotional maturity of a man, whether it's someone I'm investing in or a friend, is if they enter our house and right away they start engaging her in conversation. Mm-hmm. She's like, right away I can tell that person has emotional maturity. And I think it says something about the man, because if you can speak to a lady in a way that is responsible and appropriate, and really seeks to know them without making it flirtatious or overly inquisitive, that's a sign of emotional maturity. And like, I think both of y'all do that very well with my spouse. I mean, even this morning, Clayton was over at our place having breakfast, and right away Emily walked into the room, and Clayton gets up out of his chair, gives her a hug, welcomes her, and starts engaging her in conversation right away. That is a sign of emotional maturity, is when men can engage women, single, married, older, younger, in a way that is really raises the woman up and compliments her well.
Yeah.
I think another, just kind of shooting off of that a little bit, we've all had that experience where you're in a group of people and you're in a group of 5, 4 of the people, but you don't know one of the people in the group. And then you don't,
6.
Sorry, group of 6. Yeah. Just to clarify, there's 6 people, 5 people that are not you, and 4 of them, one of them you don't know, and you don't introduce yourself right away. But then it's like, then you're like 45 minutes in, and at this point you've kind of talked to them a little bit, but not really, and then it's like, do I introduce myself? At this, it's kind of awkward now to be like, hey, by the way, what's your name? I'm Clayton, and so I would say, having the again, emotional maturity, intelligence to walk into a room and there's a few people that there, and just being able to go up and address the people that you're not immediately closest to. We've all been in an environment where someone walks into a room and there's 2 people that they know, 2 people that they kind of know, and then 2 people that they don't know at all. And then they just gravitate to the 2 people that they know, and it just kind of makes the dynamic awkward for the whole group. Just being willing to go up and shake someone's hand, engage them. Again, going back to Jimmy, his range, Jimmy was a friend of ours from high school. I was probably closer friends with him in high school than you were, John Michael. And then we were in the same major in college. And so we did a lot of studying together. And so I had another, friend group, I guess, if you will, that Jimmy was kind of always around, and he did this super well. Mm-hmm. He would always go up and like engage with my roommates and engage with the people that came in the door. And everybody always had the exact same thought, which is like, Jimmy's awesome. I love Jimmy. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is all forgiven, at least for me, if that same person that, going back to your example, is in a group and it's been 20 minutes and they haven't introduced themselves, if they say, hey, I'm so sorry, I should have introduced myself. My name's Jose. And I'm like, oh, great. We're back to square one.
Yep.
It's funny you say that. Someone else I'm thinking was like a great hang was y'all's roommate, Cullen. And
good looking, great hang.
The only
great
example,
range.
I mean, like he had all those qualities. But what I'm thinking of, which I don't know why this has always stuck with me, there was someone that worked as a Catholic missionary at the student center.
Yep.
Y'all's roommate was not Catholic, nor involved at the student center. But he was friendly enough to, again, this is a silly example. She updated her profile picture on Facebook, and he commented, like, great picture. This looks great. Just, like, very friendly. And that always stood out to me of like, you don't know this person, but you're out here like going out of your way to make him feel seen,
Mm-hmm.
Like what a great quality to have. Which just kind of going back to like emotional intelligence, emotional steadiness. I think a lot of things we're going after is they make people feel safe, right? Going back to Will, he disarms people. He makes them feel safe. How can... Like a question I have, because we're talking about like, well, growing in emotional intelligence, well, reflecting on these things. But we're not really giving a lot of practicals, which is hard to give some practical advice with this. But yeah, like what's something someone can do to grow in that emotional intelligence, to grow in that listening aspect of things, right? Of making people feel safe. What's something practical?
I think be a learner. So like, you need to take time to learn things about people, about experiences, about ideas that you're not naturally interested in. Like one of the things I love talking to you guys about is all of us are like, oh yeah, I was reading this book about this thing, or I was watching this video about this thing, or I was listening to this podcast about this. And so your ability to have range in a conversation is totally influenced by the range in your mind. Are you constantly engaging new ideas to where you can be able to converse about a various amount of topics no matter if it's a topic that you're personally interested in or whether it's something that you know a little bit about, but you're excited to learn more about it. So there's a learning aspect that happens outside of the conversation so that then you can have a learning mindset when you're in a conversation, when you're in a room with people that you don't know.
If there's one relationship in your life where you feel like you've learned the most about yourself, what relationship would that be?
Outside of my spouse?
No. Oh, well, that's the answer. You gave it away. That's the answer I'm looking for. Is I would say the relationship where I've learned the most about myself is in my relationship with my wife. About, my tendencies to speak one way versus another way, my tendencies in a group. And I would say the reason for that is because, in our marriage, I feel like it's just natural. You're constantly giving. I don't want to say constantly, but it's a relationship where I feel like I've received a lot of feedback in a good way. Sometimes, I'm glad to hear it. Sometimes it's difficult to hear. But I would definitely say one thing, and this is, we've totally employed this in, the roles that we've had for the last 9 years in different, various forms of mentorship, is just asking for feedback from people. Because oftentimes, there's things you can do. You can read books and kind of pick up on things and practice some certain things like looking people in the eye, giving a firm handshake, asking questions about someone before you start talking about yourself. And you can definitely get better that way. But I would say, with the friends that you have in your life, being willing just to say, hey, just give me some feedback here.
Am I a bad thing?
Well, just like, hey, what are some things that you think that I could grow in even, and just growing in self-awareness like that is going to help you in social situations, I would imagine as well.
I don't know if this is the best advice or not, but this is something that helped me when I was talking about, when I was coming to college, and I was like, okay, I need to kind of change some things. I would kind of make games out of conversations, and not in manipulative or malintentioned way, but more of like, okay, I'm gonna meet this person, and I want to see how long I can go without speaking about myself, and just like that type of game, that really helped me in like learning. Okay, can I connect with someone without talking about myself? Can I connect with someone without changing? Or like domineering a conversation, right? Can I connect with someone without speaking, just smiling? Now, maybe that's an extreme, but just making games, I think was very helpful for me.
That's a good idea.
Now, again, I don't know if it's just because I overanalyze things. And I definitely have gone the other way too, of like, okay, how many things can I say before ruining a conversation?
I think another example of a great hang are people who have range in conversation, but also range with generations of people. So when you're in a room and you have people, it's so funny to me now because I don't know if you guys feel this way, but we work with people who are our parents' age now, and we're peers. Maybe not peers in terms of like job title, but peers in the sense that we have professional relationships with these people. And it's just always funny to me because being from the South, I was at a wedding this weekend, and I saw some friends who were my parents' age, and I'm still naturally inclined to call them Mr. So I was talking to this guy, and Mr. John, like, how are you? And he's like, hey, you don't have to call me Mr. anymore. We're both adults here. And it revealed that fact of there are a ton of people that are great with people in their 20s, college people, young adults. But you put them in front of a grandpa, and they're just totally lackadaisical in conversation. Or you put them in front of a 50-year-old, have no idea what to talk about. So there's a multi-generational range too, and that's actually a great test of your ability to be a good hang. Do like people in their 50s like being around you?
Yeah.
Or are they like, oh, he's trying way too hard?
There was no higher compliment to me growing up than if someone told me, oh, my parents love you. My parents always ask about you.
Yes.
It's the greatest feeling.
Oh, people used to make fun of me. They're like, when I invite you over to my house, you just sit in the kitchen and talk to my mom and dad the whole time. You don't even hang out with me.
You're the parent friend.
Right,
yeah, everyone has that friend that's really good with the parents. Yeah.
Right.
Jose would come over on Christmas break, in between semesters after college as missionaries. He would come hang out with my in-laws at their house. And Jose always did such a great job of engaging, particularly my mother-in-law, in conversation. He was always hanging out with us, so much so that she wanted to invite him over for Christmas because she thought Jose was an orphan because he spent so much time hanging out with us at the house.
I never spoke about myself.
And she loved him. Yeah, because you never give away that, hey, you actually do have a family. I don't know if I ever told you, but I have parents and siblings. John Michael, I've got a question for you.
Oh, baby.
And I want to see how you answer this. I think, a lot of what we're talking about, what we're not trying to say is, hey, here's how you get people to like you.
Right.
That's not really the mindset that you want to have when you go into these conversations is, hey, how can I behave in a way where I get people to like me? John Michael, you've always, you have a high EQ, a high emotional intelligence.
Wow.
I think just want to bring it back and just affirm you in the group
Thank
here.
you. I've been waiting all episode.
And you've been, I think, naturally skilled socially. I would say, 10 years ago.
Oh no.
I would, and I think, we've spoken about this. Maybe you've spoken about it on the podcast, but those skills are more geared towards how can I enter into a room and get people to like me? And I'm going to, use the word, you're not manipulative, but it's like, you're going in that conversation. How do I, behave in a way where, yeah, maybe I'm doing all this question asking, but it's like, it's self-serving. And I think I've seen a large shift in you over the last number of years where it's become more genuine and your disposition is, how do I serve the person in front of me instead of, I'm only really trying to gain social skills and to be self-serving. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I would say all three of us are great with people. Like I would confidently say that. I think all of us, myself included, maybe the foremost, I know how to manipulate people. Like you can just, when you have emotional intelligence, how to just get them to like you. And you can do it, to your point, in a way that seems selfless, but it's actually selfish. Like I'm just going to ask a ton of questions because I want you to really like me. And I think still to this day, it's a decision of the will in each moment to make the decision of, am I thinking about myself and how I'm appearing in this moment? Or am I thinking about what I'm giving back in this conversation? Am I using my abilities to highlight those around me and genuinely seek out their best interest in conversation or in an environment? Or am I using this so that they like me?
Because it would be the same skills, but it's the intention behind it. Right?
The hardest part about this is from the outside looking in, you really sometimes aren't able to tell what this person's intention is. But I don't know about you guys. There is a certain soft marker that you just know when you see it, and you're like, man, they seem like they're all about other people, but I can just tell the way they're doing this, it's all about them.
Can you name that? I don't know if I can.
The word gentleness comes to mind here, because you could have a very charismatic personality that is still subtly gentle in how it comes off to people. Dominating versus meek, they have the same outside effect, which is a sense of power. But dominating is, I'm going to use my power to make sure you know that I'm the alpha Mike in this room. Versus meekness being that ability to say, I have this power within me. I'm able to control it, use it, apply it, pull out that tool when the right time comes in this situation. And then I'm also able to notice when I need to pull back a little bit. And, one of the things that I think I struggle with in conversations is just dominating the conversation. So you can even be someone that's asking a lot of questions, but you're not giving the people around you the opportunity to do the same. And so you're leading the conversation and it looks like you're inquisitive, but in reality, you just want to hold the ball the whole time.
You're just dominating, yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Sounds like what we're saying is that becoming someone people enjoy being around isn't about performing. It's not about just asking a lot of questions. It's not about being someone you're not. It's simply about connecting and being present to the person in front of you. If this episode gave you something to think about the next time you walk into a room, share it with someone you love spending time with. Make sure you're following or subscribe to us so you don't miss what's coming next. We're the All In Podcast. We'll see you next week.